Hello, I'm Cecile Carson, and thank you for this opportunity to share a synopsis of my research entitled Visible but Often Ignored, a mixed methods study exploring blight and littering in rural areas. These are the topics that will be covered in the video with an emphasis on the mixed methods findings, the implications, and the distribution plan. To start, the study was conducted in Grundy County, Tennessee, located in the Cumberland Plateau with numerous natural features. The county has 2 cities and 5 towns, but none has a concentrated population of over 1,600. The problem is blight, typically referred to the spread of vacant or abandoned structures or derelict and unkept properties, including litter and illegal dumping. Blight is an economic, environmental, social, and aesthetic problem that can lead to both physical and mental health issues. Blight in rural areas may seem less significant because it's less visible. It's separated by miles instead of by feet, as it would be in urban areas. The literature on the topic of blight is increasing substantially, with approximately 55% written in the last decade, but only 10% on rural areas, with that primarily focusing on legal issues and analysis. The key topics from the literature include the lack of a consistent definition for rural and multiple meanings of blight. The literature specific to disorder, including litter, concentrates on urban and suburban settings and is often generalized for rural areas. The research uses a framework of 2 theories. The broken windows theory explores how small things may become big problems, including leading to crime. Although sometimes criticized for the theory's focus on crime and on outsiders' definition of what is disorder, the research does show a correlation between physical and social appearance and norms of individuals within an area that can prove negative. The empowerment theory focuses on how people engage civically and their self-efficacy. The theory provides a foundation for understanding individuals' beliefs around their ability to influence or impact the actions in their communities. The purpose of this study is to examine the experiences of rural community leaders, residents, and business customers. This study asks the question, what attitudes, behaviors, and influences emerge about blight and litter from physical conditions, and what experiences influence decisions about litter and littering behavior. Using a mixed methods case study design, the researchers sought to develop a more in-depth understanding of the multiple dimensions of blight, and especially blight in rural areas. The study has 4 research components. First, quantitative data collection at 15 sites representing different types of land use. The researcher used a 0 to 10 scale to assess the blight and litter conditions, the overall cleanliness, landscape, infrastructure, and walkability of the areas, and also documented the availability of containers to dispose of waste properly. The second quantitative data collection component was observations of 225 individuals at those sites, recording whether or not they littered or properly disposed of an item. The third component of the study was to collect information from 45 randomly selected individuals during 5 to 8 minute brief intercept interviews. And the final or fourth quantitative data collection component was semi-structured interviews with community leaders conducting their rich and deep narratives about their experiences of living in rural areas. The quantitative data was analyzed separately from the qualitative data. themes emerged, and then the data was merged again together to identify the mixed methods findings. The results of the study found that litter and littering behavior is the most significant problem identified from a standpoint of community appearance. The county's 5.8% improper disposal or littering rate is higher than the national average of 4%. In addition, there's a perception that even a higher percentage of the population is actually littering. When the participants were asked to provide a range from 0 to 100, it included 20 to 67% being litterers in the county. The interviewees also confirmed that littering existed. They documented that they see litter, it's on the roadways, and it's in their public spaces. The second topic is about a lack of understanding of what this concept of blight is. Overall, that word did not resonate with elected officials, residents, or business customers to be associated with dilapidated buildings or unkept properties. 49% of the intercept participants and 3 out of 4 community leaders instead linked it to the natural environment, referring to crop, vegetation, disease, and agriculture. The quantitative data, though, does show a link between blight, being abandoned or dilapidated structures, and a higher level of litter and littering behavior. A challenge exists in communicating that those abandoned and dilapidated structures are impacting the community. There was a strong comment during the collection of the research about people's love for the natural environment. And there needs to be more of a discussion in the connection of how the built environment might be impacting people's identity and look at that natural environment. The third component and identified theme is around community engagement. And specifically, the data show that there's a lack of coordinated volunteer activities, little or none focusing on community appearance. In fact, interviewees had a difficulty in even identifying volunteer organizations in the county. So this lack of social infrastructure really impacts the ability to do many things within the county. In discussion of the findings in regard to the theoretical framework, there were some gaps that were identified and some things that were confirmed. Based on an assessment of the site conditions, Grundy County has what the broken windows theory describes as some small things. They have litter and they have some buildings that are just now beginning to decline. However, in contradiction to the theory, the participants rated their feeling of safety or their sense of safety as being very high. While people are not retreating inside their homes, as is described by the theory, there's not a robust social infrastructure. So there's a disconnect with civic engagement. The interviewees did share 2 success stories. One is the Mountain Goat Trail, which is a collaboration through several agencies to create a trail through the county. And the second is the transformation of Old Grundy High School from an abandoned building into now a community resource center. Both of these show a connection to the empowerment theory, and when a specific project is identified, that the residents do step forward to try to make a positive impact in the community. The implications are in 3 areas. First, for policymakers and community leaders, buildings decline slowly, and as they decline, without policies in place to try to stop it, there's going to be a decrease in taxable values. And that means a decrease in the resources that are available to the government, which is already challenged to be able to do the things that they need to do. Litter costs are also expensive. The county has a program that uses court-ordered individuals to clean up roadways, and temporarily they're cleaner. The officials did comment that they have to keep going back to the same spots to clean up. that may actually be creating a problem, because the research shows overall in the literature that if an individual thinks that somebody's going to clean up after them, they're more likely to litter. So a policy change to litter prevention versus cleanup could in turn offer this court-ordered program to do other work that's needed in the county. Local leaders also need to develop social engagement opportunities and to open up dialogues about litter and blight that could help to foster more civic engagement. Next, for nonprofits and civic groups, the implications for Keep Tennessee Beautiful and other nonprofits is to look at how they can develop rural-specific programs. An emerging theme came from the interviewees that they thought there was a gap or lack of rural-specific tools and resources. As an example, the assessment tools that were replicated for this study from other research frequently use terminology in situations that wasn't appropriate or applicable for rural settings. The study also demonstrates a need for collaboration to help those rural leaders be able to have these dialogues, possibly offering a coaching program that was identified in the literature that can help enhance leadership skills. Third is future research. There are 4 research projects identified. The first, in the area of quantitative data analysis and research, there was a significant positive correlation between blight conditions, litter, and littering behavior. So that correlation is worthy of study with a larger sample group. Secondly, the topic of a positive correlation between land use type and litter conditions. This again warrants additional study in that there's a need for a larger sample size and that there's really a lack of current information on this topic as well. The third research topic is on the sense of disorder. The comment was made about if people from the outside not understanding this rural area. That's also in the literature about outsiders not understanding the situations from a local perspective. In Grundy County specific, if you've got equipment or junk in a yard, that's considered the mountain way. It's not considered disorder. So building on the prior research around urban areas and that disconnect, additional research on physical versus social disorder in rural areas would be beneficial. And the fourth topic is on rural-specific litter messaging. Prior research shows success in reducing urban litter when volunteers were engaged in cleanups with a combination of litter containers being added or recycling containers to an area and then specific litter prevention messaging. More research is needed to confirm whether that request for litter-specific messages would be beneficial and whether it's a real or perceived need for it to be rural-specific. The distribution plan focuses on sharing this information with rural county elected and appointed officials, community leaders, state agencies, and national and state organizations that work on community environment and enhancement programs. For Keep Tennessee Beautiful, that's going to include a presentation to their advisory board, their partners and affiliates at a state meeting. There have also been proposals submitted for presentations to national conferences, and information has been shared with several state organizations that have expressed information for their state conferences and also an interest in research within their states. In the area of publication, the study has been submitted as part of a chapter proposal being co-authored by Dr. Worse and Dr. Howell for environmental justice in North America, and a proposal is under development for the Journal of Rural Studies. In conclusion, thank you very much for this opportunity to share my research and for your support. I look forward to addressing your questions that you may have about the research, visible but often ignored, the problem of blight and litter in rural America. Thank you.